Hello, I'm Claire Weze and I'm the author of The Lightning Catcher, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about it. So in this book there are quite a lot of exciting ingredients. So we have very freakish weather, we have a strange man who everyone seems to be scared of, and an even stranger electrical creature who gets into places that you wouldn't believe. But most importantly, we have a boy called Alfie Bradley, and here he is on his bike, and his bike is very important to Alfie too. So Alfie has just moved to a new village with his family, and this village seems to have its own weather, and nobody knows why. Things like frozen puddles here and there in the middle of July, and a wind caught in a bucket, and an icicle on one branch of one tree. Weird little things like that. So Alfie starts investigating this because he's curious and because he fancies himself as a bit of a detective. And as he does this, he quickly finds that there are no-go areas in this village. But he needs to investigate one of those because that's where the best clues seem to be. And doing that brings him a bad reputation, unfortunately. The place belongs to the very frightening man that I mentioned. A lonely house with grounds full of junk, and what everybody says about this man is that he comes out at night like a bat. He never sleeps normal hours, and he keeps strange creatures all around his place. But none of that stops Alfie, because he's brave and he thinks that he's being secretive. But actually what he doesn't yet realise is that whatever you do in a small village gets seen. Worse, he has a new best friend in the village called Sam, and he ropes Sam into some of his antics. Sometimes Sam refuses because he's a sensible person, but the two of them do end up in some funny situations. Anyway, Alfie not only discovers something in this tangled, forbidden place, he actually sets it free, accidentally. And after that, all those weird little weather glitches turn into some very big problems indeed. The way Alfie describes it is that it's as if something is sucking all the summer air into itself and spitting out chunks of winter. And so the book unfolds. I'm going to read a portion from the book now, and I'm going to read from the place where Alfie's trespassing really starts to hit results. But at this stage, Alfie doesn't know that what he's investigating will end up on his own doorstep. And while trespassing in this weird and tangled and dilapidated garden area, he's followed a cat to its favourite place, which is exactly the place that the owner of the house doesn't want anybody to see. It's inaccessible, it's covered in brambles, and it's cost Alfie quite a lot of scrapes and scratches to find it. And what he's found is a box which is half covered in the ground. So this is from chapter 6. The box's lid was made of blue glass. Shiny silver wires ran along the sides and over the top, like something scientific was going on. Sweat beads prickled all over my face, but I touched the lid. It was still wet from the rain and so smooth. Close up, the box smelt of tar. A beetle trundled past my foot, and that's when I noticed how cold everything was going. In seconds, it was freezing, like someone had emptied a bag full of ice-cold air over my head. One of the laces on my trainers totally iced up. I stood and took a step back, and the cold vanished. Feeling all electrified with nerves, I squatted again and felt around the air. A perfect tall square of sharp coldness started about a metre above the box and ended right on one side of the lid. The air next to it was as warm as anything. The cat wound herself around my legs again and again. I'd almost forgotten about her. And then, All quivery and happy, she jumped onto the box and she pawed over twigs and dead ivy, as neat and as light as a dancer, as if she was tracing her paws over steps drawn out beforehand. This was obviously one of her favourite places, and when she came to the cold part, she stopped. Her skin rippled and twitched. By the way, this is a cat that has no hair. Then, like she'd wound around my legs, the cat rubbed herself against the part of the lid of the thing, and something came loose. She pushed her head against the wires as if the box itself was going to feed her, and then the thing that was always going to happen happened. The stupid cat butted the loose part off completely. It made a heavy thud on the undergrowth, louder than you'd believe possible from the size of it, and the cat jumped off all scared as if she hadn't even done anything. I poked the loose part with my toe. It was a metal bar, and then I left it there. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't make sense of where it fit or what it might be for. And then a tiny noise came from the box, a movement. Something was inside, something bigger than a moth. My head and my neck tingled. The thing inside moved again. Something was definitely trapped. Could an animal have got into a moth trap somehow? Because Alfie is actually thinking that this box is a moth trap at the moment. The cat sat on a tree root, staring at me, calm now, waiting, so I felt round to see if I could feel any fastenings. Really shouldn't. But I couldn't leave an animal to suffer, and maybe die. But there were no fastenings, not ordinary ones anyway, and nothing budged when I pulled a metal loop on the front edge. I bent down still further and squinted through a crack where the side joined the top. The body of a spider lay millimetres from my eye, squashed as flat as if it had been ironed. Another tug on the lid, of the corner of the lid, and something loosened, and now each tug made a creaking, splintering noise. A smell of rusty metal and damp and toadstools seeped out. I looked behind again, listening for footsteps. Then I pulled more gently. After a while, the lid opened a crack. It couldn't have been more than a centimetre, but in that tiny space, everything changed. The whole box buzzed. I jumped away, but not before a tiny, stingy burning feeling got me on the forehead. My hair rose in the air on its own. The whole box crackled, and for a microsecond, my teeth fizzed. Something rushed past me, brushing my arm, prickling my skin. Something fast, faster than the wind. And we'll leave Alfie there for now. Poor Alfie, poor old Alfie. He gets into so much trouble during this book. Really terrible, awful trouble. I can't say any more, but the book is also about resilience, and it's about trying different things when the first thing you try didn't work, and it's also about finding ways to fit in when you look different from everyone else around you, when you're in a new and different place. And this is a book that I found really magical to write because I fell in love with the characters, but also because I loved exploring some of the things that I found out whilst I was writing it. Things I can't tell you about in case of spoilers, but things to do with electricity and light and creatures and something going on between the earth and the sun that's just totally mind-blowing and totally true. But I also absolutely loved finding the humour between Alfie and his sister, Lily, and Alfie and his best friend, Sam. And Alfie's sister, Lily, she's really important in this book because she's the entire reason the family had to move to the village from the city in the first place. Alfie didn't really want to. He was perfectly happy where he was. And he's a little bit cross with Lily, as you'll see, but Lily has a part to play in this book that you'll need to discover for yourself. So Bloomsbury published this book, and the gorgeous cover illustration, which is here in full, was done by Paddy Donnelly, who's a fantastic illustrator, and he really brought Alfie to life, and he brought everything that happened to life in all the fizzing, and I mean fizzing, atmosphere of the book that I'd imagined. And I hope everybody really enjoys it too. Right, so to finish, I'm going to move on to a little writing activity that you can do. So what I've thought about was, I find that it's great fun to take something from everyday life, something that happens unexpectedly, that surprises you, or something that you see. So for example, one of mine was seeing a pheasant one day when I was out walking, and this pheasant's footsteps were so careful and so gentle and so graceful because it hadn't seen me, and so I could watch it for a long time. Another one was a cute little dog who jumped up and scratched my leg accidentally, but my leg was never quite the same again. It healed up, but underneath there was something really sensitive going on that little dog didn't mean to do at all. And another one of mine was, one day outside there was really slow snow falling, ever so slowly and ever so delicately. Another one was a school trip to a lonely house on the edge of the moor where parts of it were falling to pieces. It was more of a hut than a house in places. So, okay, so those are my examples. And if you can think of some of your own, just something different that happened one day that surprised you, or something that could even be quite ordinary, but you noticed it. So now the fun thing to do is to stretch that event that you've thought of and really turn it inside out almost, by writing about what didn't happen, or by writing about what nearly happened. So if it was the school trip to a lonely house, I would write about what would have happened if we'd all convinced ourselves that it was haunted, which we did for a while, and if we'd all paired up and gone off to investigate. I would then write about what might have happened then. So also you can write about what didn't happen, which is also great fun. So if it was snow slowly falling down, I would flip it and I'd write about snow being lifted up from the ground to the sky in exactly that slow way. So you're taking things that are real and you're changing one thing. So you could think about lots of other weather events and flip them like that. So for example, the wind. I had wind caught in a bucket in the lightning catcher. So what else could you do with wind that wind doesn't usually do? So yeah, and I hope you have lots of fun with that little activity. Just change one thing and keep everything else the same and see what happens. So that's it for now, and thank you very much to Moon Lane for inviting me to do this today, and I really hope you enjoy the lightning catcher, and bye for now.